Hello and welcome to episode 17 of Sacred Comedy. I am your host, intuitive consultant and energy healer, Jennifer Wai. Yes, I'm serious. Today we welcome Delanie Fischer. Delanie Fischer is a comedy writer and she is the host of the long-running, top-rated podcast, Self-Helpless. Just a little podcast. This is a really great conversation because it's just so honest. We peel back layers and we hit on some deep truths about finding who we really are, apart from what shaped us. Many of us have grown up without the real permission to be our truest selves. You know, we learned how to adjust, how to change, how to make ourselves small or hide parts of ourselves. And today's conversation explores this journey back to self. Speaking of journey, please consider taking a journey to that subscribe or like button on your screen. We're a new podcast. We would actually love your support because we love doing this. We love bringing you episodes like these, and we thank you for being here. So join me as I give Delanie an energy reading, so maybe we can all find some lightness together. So welcome to Sacred Comedy, Delanie.
Thank you so much for having me. Anytime I can get a reading from you, I am very happy.
This makes me so excited. So Delanie Fischer, everybody, welcome to the show. Delanie is the host of the top-rated podcast, Self-Helpless. She's also a comedy writer and an activist, and we've known each other for
years now.
I think 5 years, maybe more.
Something like that. I don't even know. 3, 4, 5. One of those sounds right. Time.
Seriously.
What is time?
What is time? Where are we? Who are we? That's what we're going to find out. Well, I reached out to you over Instagram and yeah. And I'm always like shitting on social media. And then you left social media.
Yes.
Which was awesome.
No, oh my gosh. I love the fact that I became your client, you became my client, and then we just became friends. You know, we helped each other in multiple ways. And yeah, and I still use all the tools that I learned from you. My oracle decks and my exercises and all of that. And gosh, those spiritual practices are just so helpful and important and have been integrated into my daily routine. So I'm really passionate talking about this stuff. It's helped me so much.
This is making me so uncomfortable. You're nuts. And I love you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
It's been such an honor to work with you. Just even getting to know you on this like down home level, which has been amazing. And what you've brought out of me as well has been amazing. I think about basically your business program all the time. Like it comes up often. It came up yesterday.
Wow.
Delanie is an amazing business coach. Are you still coaching? Are you still doing?
Very few and far between.
Okay.
I basically have one long-term client, and then I'm writing a book or a deck right now, and then I'm doing the podcast. So I've had to cut back on the consulting, but I still really love it when I can do it.
And you're amazing at it because you have such a sweetness and a kindness to you. And it's funny because as you know, because we've done many readings before, I go in a little bit ahead of time just to kind of talk to your energy, see where you are, what would help you the most. And then I write a whole bunch of notes down, and some of those notes kind of touched on that today. I realized like one of the things that came up was just like really adorable. So I am going to lead you in a little bit of a process, and unfortunately for everybody listening, you don't get to hear it. So see you on the other side. You can gently open your eyes.
That's so good.
So good to be back here.
So good.
So nice to be back in the arms
relaxed
of spirit. I know.
I feel like I'm in a womb.
You are. It's a perimenopausal womb, but it's still doing it.
You should start a new podcast called Jennifer's Womb.
Jennifer's womb, very hot and sweaty right now. And I know for some people that might be a good thing, but no. Ugh, where am I going with this? I don't even know. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, what I'd love for you to do is as I start, you know how to do this, like be in the sort of current state that you are, whatever's coming up for you right now, and open up to whatever you might want to get some extra clarity on or wisdom.
Yeah.
Keep that all in mind as I read what I wrote down. And you
Okay,
know
great.
how they go, because I'll just kind of explain it and then I'll explain why I explained it and what I asked and context and all that stuff.
Great.
So the first things that I got a sense right off the bat, your essence is like stronger than what I remember. Just
Ooh.
more grounded, more powerful, more illuminated. We'll put it that way.
Hmm.
And then for some reason I wrote down these two things: highest wisdom and steady.
Hmm.
Um, her maturity and this is for everyone listening. I usually have a conversation and go back and forth with the energy that I've, tapped into or connected to. A lot of times things come out in almost poetic form, not me,
Hmm.
emphasis, not me, the other person. This is their stuff coming through. Anyway, the message is that your maturity you've always been like extra mature, and that's kind of gotten you to places faster
Wow.
than what it might
Interesting.
have been with other people. There's So when it comes to that, it's more like gotten you to places quicker. And I don't mean success, just I'm not only success, because that's happened
Yeah.
as well, but your self-development. You kind of get to places quicker. Does that make sense?
Very much so. I was just having a conversation about this in the last few days.
Seriously?
Of course.
Of course.
Yes.
Unsurprised.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Should I
it's
expand on that? Or
yeah, you
yeah.
can for
Yeah.
sure.
Well,
Please.
I think a lot of people can relate to, if there were struggles with mental health from one of your caregivers. I think you do have to kind of grow up pretty quick and have that maturity and not even realize that you have it or it might be different than other situations. And so I was just kind of unpacking that with some friends recently and how I know it's always been there, but I like really want to play and be like an adult kid, in this
Oh,
time. So,
that makes a lot of sense.
trying to do that, trying to like how do people have fun regularly without it being planned or,
Yeah.
just kind of getting back to that. But I was just talking about that, how sometimes, yeah, you have to.
Yeah. And what's so exciting about this and what you're telling me is that the next thing is the answer
Oh my
to all
gosh, how
those
weird.
things.
Yes.
Um, it's funny because trust and faith came through, and it came through as like traith. It was almost like your higher self was like being funny. Let's just use one word. Let's make it more efficient. Let's call it traith. And it's truth and faith, like trust and faith all together. So it's truth.
I love
It
it.
has to be more smooth and efficient for you. Things have to be like
Yes.
smoother and efficient. And this is
Yes.
honestly probably consciously in my brain just because I worked with you and you
Sure.
literally helped me become smoother and more efficient. So, but moving forward, your emphasis has got to be, and it came in just like this. And I don't like giving directions like that are like, you gotta do this, bro. Like, I don't do that. But it came in as very definitive. Your
Oh.
emphasis right now has got to be on allowance,
Ooh.
meaning how much money are you going to earn for doing those chores? No, I'm just kidding. Not that kind of allowance. Allowing and I was like, okay, what kind of allowance? Allowing unchangeable character traits.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then also allowing, and this is wild, but allowing misalignment. And I'll tell you why. Because when you allow misalignment, it allows you to sit up straighter, so to speak. Does that make sense? And let me
Mm.
finish this and then I'll tell you what came through, which was hilarious. It
Yeah.
allows her to sit up straighter, so to speak, as she learns to further allow her own segments of being to meet the current and future ones. And that's honestly, it's funny. And then it's almost like the part of you that I've connected to over the years, whenever we've done this, came in and was like, oh, here we go. Everything's ensconced in metaphor. Like, and I'm like, yep, that's what you get, Delanie's energy. That's what it's going to be.
Ah,
But that kind of came, like, I literally wrote ensconced in metaphor. So I'll read that just one more time.
yeah.
Your emphasis has got to be on allowance right now, allowing character traits. And then I actually put in unchangeable character traits because I get a sense that it has to do with, well, wouldn't it be better if this was a little bit shifted or different? But there
Yeah.
are certain character traits, and we'll talk to like how this hits you after. Um, but allowing whatever those character traits might be, allowing misalignment, because it allows you to sit up straighter. So when you sit up straight, think of like you know how we exercise that sort of core connection where you've got like a core of light, and that's sort of running down your spine. It's where you bring in your connection to the above, and almost like the tree in the meditation that we did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it allows you to align yourself, like to sit up straighter. And then as you learn to further allow your own segments of being, so it's just a different word for parts of yourself,
Right.
but I like segments. It hits right.
Yeah.
To meet, to kind of be caught up to the ones that you have now that are really strong and mature, and the ones in the future that you're developing, that you're budding.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Pause.
like yeah, so like the being feeling a little misaligned in certain places obviously helps you know what works for you and what doesn't, right? So
Exactly.
coming up against something that doesn't feel right actually makes you discover what does, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Mm-hmm.
And to think of it that way, where you're allowing those qualities, whether it's in a person, whether it's in a situation, whether it's in a relationship, a work situation, whatever,
Yeah.
allowing the misalignment and not working to course correct,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Very interesting.
Because by doing that, you allow more of your own alignment. And then
Right.
you can shift whatever actions are necessary.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely resonate with that. I think there's a lot of it's funny that you use segments because I feel like that's very much I don't know, like comedy writer term, like writing a segment or that kind of thing. So that's
Yep.
really funny that you use segments instead of parts.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there are parts that feel very much in alignment right now and parts that are still like, I don't know what's going to happen or where we're going. And I don't always feel like that. So it's interesting that that's coming up now because I think um the last several years especially I felt like I pretty much even though I'm always kind of since I'm a creative, I always know that there's new possibilities and new projects ahead, but I kind of felt like I was kind of sturdier in where I was going. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, oh, I'm really just part of me is just going with the flow, which is very hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
And allowing the character traits thing that you mentioned, I am I have really struggled with perfectionism in the sense of, yeah, I just, I really overanalyze, I overthink. I still do the stuff imperfectly, but it can be a tough process to get there. And I've just kind of allowed myself to be that person and still do it. And I've just changed the way that I do things and the systems around what I do to allow for that to kick in.
Mm.
Because instead of fighting it and resisting it and like, okay, I know I'm just gonna have to deal with this because it's almost easier to allow me to be myself than
Yeah.
to force myself into a box that I don't fit in and then ruminate about it. So,
Yeah.
that's definitely coming up a lot. Um but Yeah, I would say those are that's what strikes me right now about what you
Mhm.
said.
Awesome.
I'm sure more will come up.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when you allow misalignment in yourself or you observe it from more of a neutral place
Right.
where
Right.
you're just keeping the self-awareness that's required in order to sort of look at yourself objectively and knowing your self better, knowing
Right.
yourself and your history and kind of who you are and where you came from, just
Yeah.
being cool with it. It's okay. Oh,
Right.
this is where I'm getting very structured. And that
Yes.
the foresight that you've had has allowed, okay, so I'm seeing like channels of flow. So
Mm-hmm.
you create these channels, and I mean almost like canals, you
Yeah.
create same word, right? I
Yeah.
don't know. Someone who knows linguistics comes from the same thing, right? Channel, Chanel, canal plus. What? I don't know.
That sounds
But
the same to
it
me.
sounds
Yeah.
the same, right? But you create those in the structure, right? And then you allow
Yeah.
the flow. And the episode that we have before this is about divine feminine, and my friend Danielle came on to kind of talk about it, and she said, and this kind of applies here. She said, everything in life. This came to her in like an ayahuasca ceremony. That everything in life is like alternating between holding and making space, holding,
Interesting. Yeah.
making space,
Yeah.
and knowing that that is like contraction, expansion and
Right.
allowing that as a part of a natural cycle to be something that you can not internalize, but just remind yourself of. Okay,
Right.
this is that part.
Yes. Oh, that's interesting because I think what I struggle with sometimes is not because of the perfectionism stuff that I feel like has been there for a very long time. I know where it comes from, I know exactly why it's there. And even knowing, self-awareness doesn't make it dissipate.
Of course.
But it makes it hard to know what to let go of and what not to. And that's what I often struggle with is
Mm-hmm.
kind of who would I be? Who am I naturally without that layer of conditioning and that
Mm-hmm.
coping mechanism that I've had
Yeah.
to just, get through stuff? Who I struggle with that. I think I feel very at battle with myself because I think I'm kind of somewhere in between of what others have wanted for me and what I want for me, and I'm not quite there yet to be
Mm-hmm.
doing exactly what I want for me. But I'm
Yeah.
slowly peeling back the layers over the course of, I mean, almost a decade.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you have a whole podcast about it, you know?
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
it's something that you're constantly working towards. And
Yeah.
that is like the promise that you've made. And that promise is everything. It
Mm.
doesn't ensure that you're, going to hit enlightenment and then keel over and die, but
Right.
it ensures that you're on the path.
Right.
You're just here on the path. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this one other thing that's interesting is that I asked for one more thing. I asked for kind of like the allowance, give me more information about it. And the last thing that kind of came through, which is really funny, it said you, you need to allow reverberation. And then I
Mm.
was like, huh? And then it was like to get a clear sense of like who you are. So allow the reverberation. And
Oh,
the words that come through are always like super specific. So like
yeah.
reverberation is like a resonance or like a prolongate, like a prolonging of sound.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. And I was like, okay. And I was trying to like get some more. And then I was like, maybe I'll pull a card. And then I was like, okay, let me pull a card because this is also part of the deal. And
Yes.
I pulled from this deck, everybody, which I love is the Isis Oracle
Ooh.
by Alana Fairchild. And it's one of my favorite decks. And I've pulled many a
Ooh.
card for you from this deck. And what came up, which I pulled after I wrote this down. Hmm, is
Oh.
this. Ancient
that
Power
sound?
Mysteries, hear the rattle of Isis playing. Now that picture,
Oh,
which I
that's
don't,
so interesting. Rattle,
right?
reverberation. Yeah.
So I don't know if you can, if you guys are listening, just go watch the video. Come on, just follow us on YouTube. You know, even if you don't watch YouTube, just do it. And so a sistrum is an ancient Egyptian musical instrument. It was also used. This is hilarious because I literally used a sistrum yesterday to clear my space.
Ooh.
And that's kind of, it's used in calling to the goddess, and it's also for Hathor and for Isis. But I'm going to show you. I have one. So this is
I've
a
never heard
sistrum.
of it. Oh my gosh, I've never heard of that or seen one.
Yes.
That is really cool.
This is there's pictures of it in ancient Egypt, and I have this, and then I also have like this guy. So
Ooh,
it
that's awesome.
I'm just going to read a little bit.
Yes.
Alert everybody, I did not write this myself. Alert, alert. Don't blame me. Okay. The rattle of Isis, the sistrum, is playing in the hand of the goddess now. Can you sense it with your inner hearing? Its vibration reaches through your crown chakra and enters your body, initiating you into great ancient power mysteries of sound, creativity, and healing. This is a time when words and music will become increasingly important on your spiritual path and healing journey. When the Lady Isis initiates a beloved into her ancient mysteries, life can become quite interesting. An initiate of Isis does not just learn new ideas as a student, but is thrown into the experience of the mysteries in real day-to-day living so that they may be truly mastered in our lives and then utilized in service to help the lives of others too, so that one day all beings will be healed and whole according to the will of the divine feminine. I'll just read one more paragraph.
Yeah.
The rattle of Isis initiates us into the mysteries of sound healing and creation through vibration. If we listen carefully with our inner ear, we can hear the sounds of the universe alive. We can sense and hear with our inner ear the movement of planets, the beating of the heart of Mother Earth, and the music of the goddess, guiding us through sound, helping our souls to dance and move, and our lives to heal. Okay, just kidding. One more line. You are guided to use words that reflect the experience you would like to create in your life. It may involve shifting how you speak, for example. Rather than focusing on struggle or what is not working, focusing on the signs of life and healing that you experience. This can, you can chant or whatever, but so I
Yeah.
think that's a really important message, meaning speaking that into existence and understanding the power of the sound and the spoken, making that true, because the vibration, the reverberation, it's also going to be very important for you to understand that you're listening to a frequency. Are you aligning with that frequency? Or are
Mm.
you like, it's too dissonant?
Okay, I got a few things. Few
Okay,
things. And
go
I
ahead.
forgot something earlier that you said, the oh my gosh, when you said trafe for truth and faith,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
First of all,
Trafe.
I have to come up with wordplay for myself in like every facet of my life. I'm always creating, yeah, whether it's puns or, oh my gosh, what's it called when like three words start with the same letter?
Oh,
Onomatopoeia,
alliteration. Oh yeah.
alliteration, okay. Whatever. But I'm always having to do that for myself because it helps my brain remember and also helps things there, it just makes it more fun, right? So this is embarrassing, but like I have a like when I wake up, my morning routine is like oh my god, what do I even call it? It's like move, munch, and meditate. Where it's like, just okay, yeah, move my body, do some stretches, have some water and a little snack, whatever, sit
Yeah.
still. But I'm always coming up with that. And what's really funny is that at this point in my career, so much of it is wordplay. Like the deck that I'm writing, it's
Yes.
full of puns, it's full of silly
Please tell
titles.
us about
It's
that. I
all
know we're
that.
in the midst of it. Please tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it's I don't know how much I can say, but it's basically a fun recipe book coming out
Coming soon.
coming soon.
Look out
It
for it.
should be out in the winter of 2024. And yeah, just look, if you like plant-based recipes and you like puns, look, plant-based and puns, boom, did it again, right? Alliteration. You'll enjoy this. And also if you if you like movies and literary works and things like that. So it's a fun theme, and I'm really excited for it. But that's happening. And then I'm also doing a lot of comedy writing for a nonprofit, and so much of it is like taglines and silly jokes and all that. So it's just interesting because I've always enjoyed that so much. But my background with stand up and other things is like, you're not really writing puns for the stage. You're not really performing in punnery. But I've always loved coming up with fun titles. I think that's why I really like helping people with branding and stuff, coming up with those words. So words have always been fun for me. But I wanted to bring that up because you said trafe, and I'm like, that sounds like me. I do that shit all the time. And then you mentioned, or that card mentioned the importance of music right now, and there was something else.
Like sound
Um
healing.
Music, sound, and words, right? So
Yeah.
I think just naturally over the course of the last few months, I have felt like I really need to listen to music instead of podcasts and stuff right now, or audiobooks. I really just need to listen to what I feel like, yeah, I don't know, singing to or walking around to or whatever it might be. And I been really relying more on music. And for, I mean, many, many years now, my go-to has been podcasts, listening to podcasts like all day, every day, topic I want to listen
Yeah.
to or learn about. And I've just been, I've been shifting that a little bit, and just naturally. And then I don't read books really. I listen to audiobooks usually, but I love reading, the Oracle deck stuff and
Yeah.
just those little books, right? Just a few pages at a time. And I've been really craving more physical book reading, which is so weird because it's just not something I'm usually wanting to do. And so I feel like I want to curl up with a good book, and I'm like, gosh, I don't know if I've ever felt that way, to be honest. Because I'm just somebody who really likes to listen to those things while I'm doing other stuff around the house or whatever. But that came up for me when you said that certain word, maybe approaching words differently, or sound or
Yeah.
music. I'm like, that's I've been doing that actually.
Yeah. That's part
Yeah.
of really what your essence is. And to turn to it when, well, the sound you turn to. So when you were talking, I was just saying, like, or I was just writing, it's because the music and the movement taps into feeling. So
Right.
that's more heart space, and that's getting out of the mind. So those things
Right.
are really important for you to do. So all those
Right.
things were, the meditation helps clear the mind, but like the moving and the munching, it's like it's the
Yes.
somatic stuff, it's like
Right.
getting right into your body, and
Exactly.
sound allows you to experience, as opposed to like when you're reading, or when you're listening to a book or a podcast where you're like, okay, what information do I need to remember? And it's very analytical. It's very,
Yeah.
okay, it's almost like there's a part of you that's like, num, 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 throw that out, num, 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 okay, I'll take this, num, 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 with the brain. But it's giving the attention down to the body, feeling the reverberation within your body.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in that situation, when you're allowing something, look for what the reverberation is. What is the feeling I get from this vibe? What is the feeling that I want? You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Making more space for sensing and feeling what's happening in your body. And sound is a beautiful way to do that. It
Mm.
resets your electric field. Really? It resets your electromagnetic resonance.
Interesting. I love it. Well,
Don't ask me where that came from.
I have my little what's it called? Like a Tibetan
Oh
sound
yeah.
bowl. I
Oh
love this
yeah.
thing. I love that. That is
Hell yeah.
I got all my tools next to me.
Hell you do. Hell
my
yeah.
de-
Hell you
my
do.
desk my desk is full of them. Yeah, think, nice little scents, my crystals, my
The
decks.
crystals. Yeah.
I really enjoy that shit. I I think what's coming up for me a lot right now during this period of time is that I'm trying to get to my natural state of being, because I feel like when I talk to other people who have maybe had a different experience, it's interesting that that word allowance came up, but they were kind of just allowed to make their own decisions and go with the flow and kind of see what they wanted to do or become. And I don't know if I really felt that. And so I feel like I'm kind of going backwards, or like opposite. Like I'm now in my 30s trying to
Mhm.
figure out who am I naturally with so much influence around me, where a lot of people are maybe doing that much younger. And
Mhm.
so I feel like I'm trying to catch up to like who I really am. And I've been
Yeah.
questioning a lot of stuff of like, would I even have a job in like the public sphere in any way, shape, or form? Would I be doing a lot of this stuff? I don't really know. And I think that's, yeah, it's like there's so much I like about it. But I don't know. I think if the goal was to be, or the goal for me,
Mhm.
what I thought my goals should be, if the goal would have been happiness or contentment or peace or something,
Mhm.
versus accomplishment and accolades and success and all that, I don't know what I would have done differently, and I'm trying to figure that out now.
Mm.
And you know yeah, kind of
Yeah.
implement the changes, integrate that now, which I'm just always in between two worlds, I feel like.
You're doing you're doing the work, I just want to say. And you
Yeah.
you gotta give yourself a lot of love and compassion for the kind of work that you've been doing over the years, because being able to sort of take all that in, being imposed upon, that's kind of, when you were a
Mhm.
kid, a lifestyle and values was imposed upon you. And you'd
Mhm.
be surprised to learn. I mean, I think you already know this deep down. That's what how most people have been raised up until this
Right.
point. And
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
only now kind of just starting to shift that our, children were just seen as extensions of their parents.
Right. Right.
Literally, you're mine, you're mine, you belong to me.
Right.
We became the canvas that they painted upon. But that's not what
Right.
we were here to be for them. However, the restrictive nature of how you were raised propelled you to be more mature as you've been like exploring.
Yeah.
But the shedding of the layers and the lightening of the layers is just mm, it's just it's it's going to be a constant process of lightening. So
Interesting.
lightening up. So it's like, okay, here's a perfect example. A hot air balloon. You're removing the sandbags
Mm.
and allowing it to go up higher, right? So it's going to be a process of removing the weight of the restriction of what was imposed upon you, of what's been integrated into your sense of self, your sense of identity.
Yeah.
But because you're aware of the shedding of it, you can be sure that this process is well on its way to being, it's not something you're going to be like on Saturday you're going to be like, "Oh, I'm done. Didn't work." It's like
Right.
you've been
Right.
at this for so long.
Yeah.
Again, you're on the path, but allowing the times where you're like, "Oh, fuck. This isn't what I really liked. This is something that's been programmed," while you're in that contraction.
Yeah.
Because right now your awareness and your allowance of it all, recognizing, is helping you move outside of the third dimension of your life and
Yeah.
seeing it from a perspective where you can encapsulate all of it to be true, and now accepting and allowing all of those parts, even the ones that were stifled, even the ones that you made shiny and pretty to be presentable to whoever's eyes gazed upon you. I don't know if that's resonates at all, but it's like any girl growing up in America, around the
Yeah.
world, really was taught that that had to be a huge part of it. We have to have a shiny exterior in
Mm-hmm.
order to
Mm-hmm.
allow people to see us, and we couldn't let them see us without it. However, regardless of your exterior, your inner any of the inner turmoil, any of the inner distress serves to propelling you into a place that's going to allow you to really just explode in, what's the word, magnificence, really being full capacity, like in your full capacity of who you are, regardless of what anyone is going to think about it.
Mm.
The raw Delanie, the raw version of
Mm.
Delanie.
I like that.
You know, like a raw date bar, healthier, more
Grittier.
grittier, more natural, more
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
digestible in a way that sustains and nourishes,
Yeah.
as opposed to being like a Kit Kat for somebody.
Yeah.
Don't ask me.
Oh, I actually really love that analogy. I love analogies. Again,
You know,
wordplay, analogies, all the things.
nutrition,
Yes.
veganism, what have you.
Nutrient dense.
Nutrient. You are nutrient dense. You are, because in your raw
uh,
original form, you haven't been processed, you know?
mhm. Oh, it's so interesting. So, yeah, one thing that's coming up that I don't mind sharing is like having, the Self-Helpless podcast platform. And, I've been very grateful to be a part of it, and it's gained a lot of good traction and all these things. But I feel very caught between like, oh, I have to do certain things to like keep the download numbers high and blah, blah, blah. And there's also conversations I really want to have that will probably repel a lot of people away, and it's been like, oh gosh, this constant being torn. But I kind of have hit a wall where I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit bored of doing things, the conversations that haven't really been uh authentic to me, or the maybe the guest is somebody that we should probably just have this person on for whatever reason. It might help something, the show. I've just been so bored by it. I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't be admitting it, but
That's okay.
and the I just really want to have conversations with, like, I don't know, people that you probably can't find very easily.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawn to those types of conversations more than I am, um, you know, the big celebrity or the big
Mm-hmm.
best-selling author. And I'm not saying that I'm bored by all of it. I'm just saying that I'm noticing patterns of the shiny objects are just not doing it for me anymore. And maybe when I first started in my 20s, I was so excited and all that stuff, but I just have a different perspective about all that stuff now. And I'm kind of in a place where I have to really not care what happens as far as mainstream success, if I'm going to kind of go further down the road of, you know, the conversations I actually want to have,
Yeah.
and the people I actually want to have on, who might not have a book or a big Instagram following, or, I
Yeah.
just like, that's why I've always been like, I don't know if I belong in the entertainment industry, because I know you're supposed to care about these things and do these certain things. And I just don't. I just don't. But part of me wishes I did. But and I know I'd be more successful in certain ways if I did. But um, I'm just kind of having a tough time of that,
Yeah.
being torn between what kind of success do I want. I want success that feels like me, even if that means I'm not making as much money, or
Yeah.
whatever that might be.
Yeah, you're honestly, you're a little bit more sensitive than your typical sort of like top-rated podcast host, because you do have your you have your feet on the ground, right? You
Mhm.
make you make an effort repeatedly to keep your feet on the ground. And that is something that because I'll tell you this, because you've been off of social media, you've spared your energy so much
Yeah.
turmoil. Like, so it's so bad out there. Like,
Yeah.
so and I will say, one of the things I'm noticing is that this is the year, and a lot of psychics have been saying this, that the world of celebrity is starting to get a lot smaller. It's going to start to go inward because it's about
Interesting.
individuals now. We're moving into an age of people and not necessarily, and also like everyone's can be a celebrity and social media and
Yeah.
whatever, all those things. But the
Yeah.
value that's been placed on that is going to start to wane. So
Mm.
you're right on target. And then maybe you speak to the people who are like, yeah, this doesn't ring true for us anymore.
Right.
This
Right.
mass sort of coverage or this mass appeasing doesn't work for us anymore. And maybe a more segmented, maybe a more specialized direction that's really more reflected of what you're exploring with yourself
Right.
can
Right.
be something that's really valuable to other people.
Right.
Um, and I say this as someone who's like super jealous of people who have success in this world because
Mm.
I built up a story for myself around entertainment that was quite unfair. And when I look at it and I take a step back, I'm like, well, do I want something to be really big? Because I am conflicted as fuck. Because I'm like, I don't want to. It just seems like a lot of work and like a lot of negative vibes. Because
Right.
I'm like, but it's really because I'm like jealous and resentful. Because the other half of me is like, I deserve to be on a stage, like I deserve everyone to. But I don't deserve any of that. Like I have not
Mm.
given the universe a clear choice on whether
Right.
I want this or this because I'm like, let's see. I don't know how I feel like today. And I've accepted lately that maybe it's not meant to be for everybody. Maybe it really
Mhm.
is just meant to be a smaller thing. Um, 'Cause I told you I got hacked and everything. I'm like, maybe it's just meant to
Oh
be a smaller
yeah.
thing. And again, social media, this grand mainstream has shifted everybody away from focus on themselves, focus on their own
Right.
healing,
Right.
believing and trusting their inner voices because it's so loud out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so true. And I'm just gonna say, yeah, you can include everything I'm saying because it's how I really feel. And I'm so
Yeah.
tired of like withholding certain things, you know. So please do.
And we have a
And
really small audience, y'all. So you're safe.
it's and it's so interesting because I've always kind of felt that way, but I'm just recently having the courage to voice it. Where a long time ago I was like, I don't really care about I don't care if you're a celebrity or nobody's ever heard of you. What kind of person are you? Am I going to enjoy having a conversation with you? Am I going to feel uncomfortable in your presence because I know you're just here to like whatever promote your TV show or whatever. You know what I mean? I just I've never been interested in that stuff, and I don't know if it's because I've grown up in near Los Angeles my whole life and maybe was just desensitized to celebrities to
Mhm.
begin with, and I'm like, whatever, it's just a job.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm really yeah, I don't know. And it's interesting because now I'm the last host of the Self-Helpless podcast, and there were three of us in the beginning, and it really is up to me now where it goes. And I think a lot of
Mhm.
people are going to be disappointed potentially. A lot of people might love it. A lot of people might be like, I miss the old stuff where we talked about our
Allow.
yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like it's not meant for everybody at every time. Um but I'm really having a harder time being inauthentic. I really am. It's just
Best
too
news ever.
exhausting. It's too exhausting. So, um yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what falls away and what sticks around. I still have no idea.
So the other thing I just want to say to you is this this could be your contraction period of a
Yeah.
rebirth. It's a rebirth. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to stop being what it is, but it can shift and evolve. and
Right.
it can evolve alongside you because you're evolving. And all of the work that's gone into that project came from a place of genuine wanting to like develop the sense of self that you have.
Yeah.
And now that you're getting to a clear spot on the mountain, now you can demonstrate for people with sound, with words, what it's like on the other side of the mountain. Oh, there's a nice downhill slope that you can ride down. There'll be another mountain over there.
Right.
But you're going to be able to narrate the whole time because perhaps you might lose people along the
Yeah.
way. Again, allow the misalignment of potentially, audience members who are like, oh, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
Allow for, and that in and of itself allows for more alignment with
Yeah.
people who wouldn't have considered that and possibly find that new stage of whatever the project looks like and are
Mhm.
really it's more it's going to be way more magnified because of the potential power of your own truth behind it. It's
Mm.
running on Duncan. That's what I'm hearing. It's like this, this motherfucker runs on Duncan. Like, no, this motherfucker runs on truth and love. And that's gonna
Yeah.
look different than all these things that you're noticing. Cause like you said, it's becoming more difficult. You simply can't resonate at that frequency anymore. It's
Right.
too difficult, which
Right.
is what um which is what expansion and ascension looks like, which is what like everyone in the new age field is always talking about.
Mm.
You simply, it's like you're existing where you're hearing the dog whistle and you're like, ah, and other people are like, what? I don't hear anything.
Right.
You
Right.
know what
Oh,
I
that's
mean?
interesting. That's another good analogy. Yes. It's so funny. One of the first thoughts I had when I realized, I'm the last host of the podcast of Self-Helpless. I was like, oh my God, does this mean I can delete all of our social media and just have the podcast? And I still might. I mean, that might be part of this. That might be the next phase. Cause then it's like, yeah, I mean, that's who I am naturally. And if it's just me as the host, I am able to do that.
Play with it. I'm getting the message, play with it.
Yeah.
Almost like we're going to take a 6-month break,
Right. Right.
but the
How about
podcast
that?
is still
Yeah.
happening. Here's where you can find
Mm-hmm.
us, you
Exactly.
know?
Hey, we're not going to be here anymore, but if you really care about, being notified about the episodes,
Yeah.
subscribe on the podcast apps and follow it along there.
And
Yeah.
you already have experience with that and what that
Right.
looks like.
Right.
You're one of the few people who have thank you Jesus created that pathway for the rest of humanity. Because I really consider, because honestly, you know how I feel about social media and I'm on it right now.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and it's like it has created barriers. It's to had the opposite effect of connection. It has had the
Mm.
complete opposite effect. And it has created such a divergence in humanity. Like it has contributed to so much of what we're experiencing, right? It has just put everything on speed because people are
Yeah.
like, oh, but it's for connection. And it's like, yes, that's what it is ideally for, but we
Right.
are not fully evolved human beings yet. Like we are
Right.
not conscious, we are not consciously evolving. Not enough of us are consciously evolving to be able to take it out of that context. Like even if you have spiritual people on Instagram, they're like, hey guys, here's my business. But it's like, you know what? That's
Right.
you're just having everyone focus on you, which is fine. I'm doing the same thing. Hi everybody. I'm Jennifer Wai. However, I don't want to be in their faces all the time,
Right.
you know. I mean, that's where the disconnect has always come from me from social media. Like however, I also like really intensely respect people who are like 4 or 5 posts a day and it's like their lives. And I also know
Yeah.
some people who are really successful on it and who also have like their brains can't settle down because they're literally
Right.
always thinking about stuff to post.
Right.
And that's turning, I'm sorry, that's the real AI, everybody. It is turning people into machines, you know?
Yeah.
You're
Good
turning people
point.
into factories of creativity. It's too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. It just feels weird to me. And I'm gonna do it very minimally, or I'm gonna experiment with like deactivating that stuff for the podcast for a while, or just removing it completely. I mean, and just having the podcast. I just love when I think about when I remove something like that, all of these little micro to-dos leave with it. The creating the video and the telling the, guests about the, tagging the guests and all that shit goes away. And you just can, for me, focus on the purpose of the podcast and
Yeah.
just that one thing, that one channel, if you will.
Yeah.
But I don't
Exactly.
know. We'll see. We'll
We'll
see. My network might not be very happy,
I
but
Hey, well, you know what?
that's part of it.
But it's also part of it
Yeah.
because it's like this would be this is innovation.
Right.
Like, okay, maybe the money, whatever, blah, blah, blah. However, there's got to be a third choice in there. Can't be
Right.
either or. Maybe there's a
Right.
way everything can really. And you know what? I mean, I think your ability, that's where your maturity comes in. Like that's where you're like, okay, I know that I can let part of this go. I can see the clearer path for this. So maybe I
Right.
try it, but I also have enough flexibility within myself and with my experience where I can accept and allow that it might shift again.
Right.
When two
Yeah.
months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months,
Right.
like you do now, just the way you were saying, like you create these containers for things and then you allow something to flow in there,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you
Mm-hmm.
have any other questions that we can cover?
Oh gosh, what's a good question to ask?
Yeah.
I feel like you did so well. You
Oh,
asked so many great questions for me.
you're such
Um,
a great podcast guest. You have like no idea. I was like, oh my God, this is so great. It's like
oh, I'm
comforting.
glad.
Like, yay.
I think really, I mean, I guess maybe where I'm at right now is this where I'm gonna be for a while or supposed to be for a while, whatever comes
Okay.
up for that.
So what's coming up now is just kind of like recognize where you can remove barriers to flow.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Recognize what the barriers are. Um, just observe. I was like, notice? And it's like, no, observe. Observe, retain. Interesting. Retain the lightest part of the
Ooh,
message. Retain the lightest part of the situation. Because,
oh, I love
and then
that.
I'm just getting that sort of like the sand, like removing the sandbags. It's
I love
a
that.
it's like a oh it's like so I'm seeing like, okay, we're in spring, everybody, like picking the corn that you plant, whatever, picking all the things that you've planted, so you're going to be in a sort of self harvesting period where you're discovering your own abundance inside, and I'm like, corn, strawberries, kale, cabbage, like like you're really
Yes.
like you're harvesting
Yes.
crops. And I've used harvesting of late, kind of more in like a different context, but harvesting here really just means um you've planted so many seeds, you've nourished a lot of things, and you can now it's time to celebrate the abundancy of your what you can harvest.
Mm, I love that. That's that sounds nice. I like this lightening of
Yeah.
everything. Retaining
Yeah.
the light, lightning, removing the barriers. This all
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting how um abundance has meant different things to me at different periods of
Yeah.
life where few years ago, me abundance, I really would have connected with money and wealth in that respect. And now it's like it's really just it's spaciousness in my schedule. It's kind of peace. It's being able to sit in the sun. It's like
Yeah.
it's so different than what I was, yeah, feeling just
Yeah.
even a few years ago. And you know what's funny? I meant to tell you this at the beginning is when you brought up the word allowance. It's really funny because my husband Cam and I have we have shifted our how we do our finances together and everything. And we actually before we'd had separate accounts that would we would have money auto transferred to a joint account that covered our overhead and all that. But
Yeah.
now we put everything into a joint, and then we have an allowance that goes and and auto transfers to our personal account. And so it's
Oh
so
my
funny
God.
because we call it our allowance. So in the beginning, you're like, oh, I don't know if it's about, whatever, an allowance for chores, but it's actually very funny because we do actually have an allowance now that we did not have.
Oh my God.
Isn't that
That's
funny?
like a whole nother thing. Like the
Yeah.
combining of like joining forces
Yeah.
and then finding your like that's like a whole nother podcast.
So funny.
Oh
I
my
know.
God. The
So yeah.
spiritual meaning behind joint financial resources or
Yeah.
joining finances. But it's really
Absolutely.
true. That's so perfect.
I know. It's so
And
funny.
I adore you so much. Thank you so much
I
for coming
adore
on
you
the
too. Thank you
podcast.
for having me. Oh my gosh. Please invite me anytime because I
Okay.
love getting readings. I love this shit.
I know.
And literally anytime. I will be your highest
Amazing.
returning guest if you let me.
Done. Deal. Done. Totally. Thank you again. Tell everyone how
Ew.
they can find you.
Yeah, my website, DelanieFischer.com, DelanieFischer.com. That's really the best place to go because I have no idea what that's gonna, what things I'll be doing, but that is my home base where you can
Yes.
find all the branches. Yeah.
Sign up for I love it. I sign up for her newsletter. You get
Yeah.
all the information through there. Again, Delanie is not on social media because she is a fucking queen. And yeah, I love you.
Love you too. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Yes.